Buhari started this his agenda, Nnamdi Kanu was the first person that pointed it out. He was the first person that told Nigerians and alerted Nigerians to what is coming. Nobody believed him until eventually Buhari now exposed himself, and you started seeing Nigerians now providing their own security, from Amateku to Ebubago that never was in Imo State and all the rest of them. It was under Buhari's word that you saw all these terrorists. Nnamdi Kanu alerted us. Go and check. It was this revelation that angered Buhari. That was why he started his ESN in the southeast to protect the Igbos. So it was not easy, because the first port of call would have been in the southeast. That Buhari felt that we are too stubborn, that he's going to deal with us another. Nnamdi Kanu took preemptive steps to protect the Igbos in the southeast. So this thing angered Buhari because they were not easy to penetrate as they planned. That was why they put him in Kula and they used Ozadema. Ask yourself, what is that thing that is so special in the Igbos?
We are in the month of July already, almost the middle of July, and on 18th of July it is approaching. That is the day that case of Nnamdi Kanu is going to be resumed. And I know that so many Nigerians, apart from Biafrans, Nigerians are also, looking up to what is going to happen on 18th. How is it going to look like, especially after we have heard what happened in Kenya, where the justice has been done? Is it going to be reflected in Nigeria case? That's what makes the whole Nigeria to be curious. What is going to happen?
From right inside the update happening within the DSS, the DSS have already thrown their doors open to anybody who want to come and visit Nnamdi Kanu.
Wow.
I think that was the statement the lawyer Ejimako also made, telling the public there that you are now free to come and see Nnamdi Kanu. Those who want to see him are now free to come and see him, given what transpired in Kenya. I want to use this opportunity to celebrate PLO Lumumba. Yes, a great man. He was one of the fortified legal team. He fortified the legal team of Nnamdi Kanu's trial in Kenya and was able to achieve that outstanding record of judgment that has shaken the whole world. Now, and you know what should be going on in the minds of people now is that what is going to happen after Kenya government has delivered that judgment, even though they have already set out a certain amount of money as compensation for committing criminality, in that land, knowingly or unknowingly. Those who transpired, the ICC, the AU, the United Nations agencies have taken it as a template. That's why they have to look for Buhari anywhere they see him now to come and answer questions. Including Malami, who could not be able to interpret what the international law, what the common treaty says about rendition, abduction, and extraordinary rendition. Yes, if I can put it that way. So that was with, and Malami is still there, though he has gone underground from what we are hearing, but when everything come to a power play, they will know what to do at the end of the day. They know how to get him, but people are still studying that judgment. How come? So this thing we are talking about here on daily basis, that what happened in Kenya was the government of Nigeria committed kidnapping in another man's land, connived, compromised, breached sovereignties of so many of nations, and because of somebody said no to Fulani agenda. Well, we are seeing it very clearly that the DSS have opened their doors now for anybody who wants to have a direct interaction. Yes, we have been receiving delegates from around the world. They have been flooding, from people from Israel, people from America, Germany, Holland, Australia, different people, even those from Cameroon, Namibia, Kenya, Cameroon, some we had also some people came from Burkina Faso. They want to see who this man is, who is actually this Nnamdi Kanu. Forget the crisis of the what's happening in Ghana currently now, where it's being assumed that one Igbo man has bought thousands of acres of land and want to take Ghanaian land and become the Igbo of Ghana. There's crisis already going on there now. I don't know how the Ghanaian government is going to handle that issue. You understand? There's a similar Igbophobia in Ghana currently now because somebody said he is the Igbo of Ghana, or whatever his name is, the Igbo of Ghana or whatever. So, but that does not stop the people who understand what transpired between Nnamdi Kanu and the Nigerian government from visiting him in DSS. Ghanaians lawyers are there. Hausa lawyers are there. So we are just counting 5-6 days to his appearance, and we are looking at why the DSS actually now open their doors for anybody who wants to visit Nnamdi Kanu. And what do you think about it? Where is this pressure actually coming from? Why is it that the Nigerian government has lost their irrelevance in terms of anything that has to do with Nnamdi Kanu? Why is it the governor of former governor of Igbo State and the current minister, seeking or trying to make mention that the Federal Executive Council will have to decide whether Nnamdi Kanu will be released or not, or there's going to be a political solution to his release?
I want us to visit that Ghana situation that you just talked about. The Igbo of Ghana. I have heard about it where Ghanaians are making a comment about this man bought vast of land and started building it there. It's like we want to create a land for Igbo people. And according to the guy that I listened from Ghana, said that this is how some people from foreign country want to carve an each for themselves in that area where it's only people from their side will be, allowed in that place. What do you want to say about this thing? Creating a particular community for yourself in another man's country. How do you think?
Yes, I do not think that the law of Ghana and the culture allows that. The government of Ghana, constitutionally, even though we are hearing that the man has been in Ghana for the past 30 years and become a very successful man.
Yes,
married a Ghanaian woman.
Yes,
and has lived there over his life, that he has gained recognition from every president that come at every era. Just like what we see happens in Dangote, whatever. Dangote have so many these things. But the fear is that the man is not bringing Ruga, the man is not bringing arms, the man is not bringing anything that is a threat to Ghanaian people. But it's just that do Ghana law actually allow that, or is there anything they are saying? Because the fear of dominance is a very big problem. Not only that, there are so many Igbo communities there in Ghana, but a lot of people know that silently there are Igbo communities, pure Igbo communities. Just like where you go to Omahia now, or somewhere you say Hausa community, you go to Igbo, you go to Agege, you say Sabo, you go to you understand? But then why did they actually single that out for a scenario? Because this man has contributed so much to the economy. In fact, he has come to identify Ghana as his home. But it's led for the government. Because people are saying that he might have compromised, he might have used his influence with the government, and they have allowed that it is not okay. The Ghanaian law does not allow that they should also go and see how they are going to build a Igbo, how they are going to develop, talk about Biafra, even though they do not understand much. But if you go to Ghana today, they knew. And I was surprised they were mentioning that these people they call Igbos, they are Biafrans, and they are seeking to. Yes, that is correct.
Yes, the man even mentioned about Biafra. He did mention Biafra, that you please go and join them to fight for Biafra. Don't come and build Igbo land in Ghana. Go and build it in Nigeria. Go and fight for Biafra. Do you agree with that man, that influential man like that can join in the effort of Nnamdi Kanu to look for emancipation of Biafra?
The question is that they saw it as a threat. They are not looking at the economy. They are looking at the future that this might bring an Igbo community, entire Igbo community in Ghana. But it happens in other places. It happens even in Biafran land. We have Hausa community, strictly Hausas. So I don't know how they want to enjoy it, as long as you are living peaceful within those people. But that is not fair. But the kind of sentiment people have when they talk about Igbo is always fierce.
Yes. Why is it like that? Why is it always be that
everywhere? But we have China village in Nigeria. If you go to America, you see a place that is named after Yorubas, only Yorubas. You understand? Are you telling me that if somebody like Brigade comes now that he want to establish American community in Ghana, they will not allow it? You understand? I know.
I'm surprised because the man want to buy the land. He didn't. I mean, hijack it. He didn't grab the land from anybody. He want to buy land.
The international law of property allows you to earn it. That's why people can go anywhere. You know, you can't tell me that because Atiku owns majority of investment in. And let me just put it that way. For instance, in Dubai, and you say that I want to take over Dubai. You know, but I'm telling you that this sentiment. And remember also, that there has been this direct attack on Igbo businesses in Ghana. Not now. Number of times their shops has been shut down. They are being imposed a lot of things, even levy, taxes, and they will get up and still pay. So the growing. Look at what is happening in South Africa. The same Igbo people. So the sentiment, the fear. I don't know why, but it is not real.
But why are they always afraid of Igbo dominance? Because even from the 60s, Amadou Bello make that accusation that Igbo people, they like to take advantage, they like dominating every place you give them they take advantage. Why is it like that? Why everybody usually accuse Igbo of that thing?
Yes, then does it resort to taking of lives? Does it trigger killing? Does it trigger humanity? Does it contribute to humanity? Does it make the world a global viable economy? I remember what Buhari said that Shetima repeated when he visited Alex Oti in Abia State. He made it very clear that the Igbo people are mobile economy. I don't know whether people understand what it means somebody is a mobile economy. How did they get there and what is it all about? Is that, it's just like the Chinese. I'm not saying we are China. We are not China. The Igbos are not China anyway, But, they were able to establish a certain network whereby possibly most of them does not know how they suddenly become rich. Because I remember immediately after the war, my father said they were picking nylon on the street. How did nylon? From nylon, they started carrying this thing on their shoulder. There's this thing that looks like tailor. There's a sewing machine. That's what they do. After some time, you see, those things are no more. Does that mean what it tells you that a Igbo man is averagely a struggling spirit, a very resilient spirit.
So how does that one? How they now misinterpret it to dominance? Is Igbo do they have dominant spirit?
Well, then ask you a question: why did the entire Europe went against the Jews? That is it. Why did Hitler wake up one day and said he must kill all the Jews in the world? The Jews did not fight him, but because he discovered that 70% of inventions, money, whatever you call it, as at that time, are either founded or being led by the Jews. Please understand it very clearly. So the sentiment is that who are these people? Okay, let me tell you. Do you know up to now that the Jews still control the World Bank? But you cannot. Yes, up to now. They control the New York Stock Exchange. They control the Walmart. They control one powerful from. They control Germany. They control where? Okay, let me give you.
There's so many in Russia.
No, yes, let me give you. It's not what Putin said. He be hearing about Miss Bushi.
Yeah.
Miss Bushi. Mercedes and all these names in those days, go and do your findings and find out who are the real founders of those companies. They are all Jews. And for an average Igbo man believes that he need to survive. I know what survival is all about. It carries a lot of things. Just suicide mission. So it tells you that it didn't even start from now or after the war or before the war. This is something that they came with that is found in their DNA. And if you tell them how many they came to tell you, they won't be able to tell you.
And that's what makes the whole world to be fear them. That
yes.
Dominate
Even
us.
when Amadou Bello, I listened to that interview by Amadou Bello, I was saying that But I can tell you, as at that time, do you know what they were doing? Because of their resilient nature, you know, they can come to your place and pick cattle and go and they wouldn't mind trekking from here to the north to sell that cattle or to find a market for that cattle. And if they do it, and after some time, you saw them, you know, transform it. Okay, look at Chisco, a multi-billion-dollar transport company. He was a conductor in Kanu. He was a conductor. Then how did he manage? He said after doing conductor, he saved and was able to buy one korope or whatever, and started from that korope, and before you know it, he bought out, and before you know it, and that was it.
In conclusion, maybe this is why Britain observes the potential of Igbo, and they make sure that they arrange one kangaroo and put everybody together, so make sure that they checkmate the development.
Yes, it is not as he paid them. It has backfired now. Maybe they never believed that a time will come where we have access to information. People are having access to information, and they are questioning that Britain actually committed crime. See, the black nation is rising. Leave those things. They are going to return back to where they come from, irrespective of they don't want to know how whether they have all gone to the moon. The Western world have flown to the moon. The black man is going to start afresh, start from the beginning, and that is why Mazinam Kanu is being kept there, because the colonial agents as the people who are operating the Nigerian system, and there's no how they want us to be freed. And now people have come to realize that, you know, you can see what is happening between Obi now and Atiku. Nigerians want to move forward. As simple as that. So in the same way, that is what we are talking about. You know, those who are stand up to okay, how come they are saying that the Hausas in the north have regained consciousness? You see, Hausa that has been dominated, that's over 60 million or thereabout or more. It's been dominated by 60 million people. Well, those are the facts. And that is why we have this review today. Of course, we're going to update you any moment from now on the development inside DSS with Mazen Kanu.
Thank you very much.